afternoon in the Swiss Wealth and Beyond Summit. 大家好，恭喜发财，恭喜发财. I think this is probably about the 82nd time that somebody on stage has wished me Happy New Year. But it is a very exciting experience to be here today. I am super excited because this happens to be my favorite subject, a better tomorrow. What this is all about is about reimagining a better world. And what better way to start off than with education? So, let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Crystal Lim Lange. I'm the CEO of Forest Wolf. I travel around the world talking to government bodies, talking to universities, to large-scale corporates about what they need to know for the future. And before that, I was actually the founding director at the National University of Singapore, of the Center for Future Ready Graduates. And before that, I was an investment banker. And the interesting thing is, everything I learned about education, I actually know from banking. Let me tell you a story about how I became an investment banker. I was a second-year law student. I didn't study finance. I didn't study accounting, any of these things. But I was a second-year law student, and one day in my college in England, I was very hungry, and I was going for dinner. And what happened is that along the way, as I was walking for dinner, I noticed that there were beautiful smells, delicious smells coming up from a little room next to the dining hall. Now, it wasn't Chef's vegan buffet, unfortunately, but I decided to take a look. So I crept into the room, and I saw that along the walls, there was a very fancy buffet with sausage rolls and all kinds of delicious sandwiches. So I thought, no harm, I'll just take one of them. So one of them went into my mouth, the other one went into my pocket, and then all of a sudden the lights went on. And there was a voice behind me that said, "Young lady, what are you doing here?" I turned around and I saw a man in a pinstripe suit, turned out to be an investment banker, and by instinct my mouth opened and some sound started to come out of my mouth. I don't remember what I said. I really don't remember. But at the end of it, he looked at me and he said, "You know, I don't believe a word of what you said, but you're pretty good at telling stories. You should be an investment banker." Okay, guys, don't worry. I didn't work for IndoSuez. It's okay. But that was the moment that actually became an epiphany for me. Because up to that point, I thought education was about grades, was about content, it was about studying really hard. But I know now, and I knew then, that it wasn't about grades. And the research shows this. So if you've got parents in the room, grades are not correlated to success or happiness. Grades are correlated with compliance. In the world of the future, you have robots and AI to do compliance. Don't worry about grades. Don't make your kids obsolete. There are other things that are more important than that. So if education isn't about the what, in today's world we know it's not about the what. Anybody with an internet connection can go online and watch lectures from Harvard, like all the content is out there. It's not about the knowledge, it's about the what if. And education is about awareness. It's about making wise decisions, just like all of you are contemplating here, what wise decisions to make, and it's about resilience. So today I'm going to share with you the recipe for brave new education, and it's really about three things. The first thing is about deep human super skills. The second thing is about upgrading your mindsets, future-ready mindsets. You need to install these into your brain. And the third thing is about creating that future-ready identity that's really important and really clear. So, let me start off with a question. Do universities prepare graduates effectively for the future? And this is the audience participation segment, so I want you to look at your iPads now and just do a quick yes or no poll. So 38%, 62%, and we're getting there, so about 40-60. Now let's look at the presentation again. So Gallup actually polled university administration officers, so the senior chief academic officers, and also told employers about this. And unsurprisingly, this was the answer. 96% of senior management at the university say yes. Just 11% of employers agree with them. That's a big gap, and that's what we call the skills gap. Are the universities actually preparing our next generation with the stuff that the employers want to see and the stuff that makes them happy, successful in their lives? Now, my first point is in the future of deep tech. Everyone's talking about deep tech, outside world, big change. Have you considered deep human? That's what we need to balance out deep tech. So, here's the World Economic Forum Skills Outlook 2022. On the left-hand side, other things you should learn. You should grow these skills because they're more and more important. And you're going to see words there like innovation, creativity, leadership, persuasion, influencing. These are all deeply human skills that machines find really hard to replicate. But then on the right-hand side, what do you find declining? These are the things that, when I was young, my parents told me was really important. Memorizing things, learning my Chinese idioms, right? Memorizing my legal studies, reading, writing, maths, and active learning, compliance, quality control, all of this stuff is waning because anything that has rules and that has processes can be coded and will be coded. So that's why you need to deliberately focus on deep human skills. So particularly like this extract from the report where it says that emotional intelligence, leadership, social influence, these are the things you particularly need to focus on, and especially for all of you in the room, the next generation. What are you actually investing in and cultivating deliberately? I want to give you an investment portfolio now of the 6 deep human super skills that in my years of experience teaching 20,000 people, from students to professors around the world. These are the things that research in neuroscience, psychology, and leadership have found the most relevant. The first one is focus and insight. Guys, we live in a distracted world. The most scarce commodity today is your attention. Research shows that 50% of the time you're not paying attention. Research shows that 50% of the time you're not paying attention. Research shows that. So, I got your attention, now everyone's listening because this is how it works in the real world. Sometimes you need to say things 3 times just for people to hear you the first time. So how can you train the next generation? You need to work on their attention spans, which are declining. Mindfulness programs are very in vogue now in Silicon Valley, but they're spreading to universities. Why? Because we know that over the past 15 years, attention spans have declined 33%. That is scary. And it's actually training our brains to be more and more distracted. I can tell you for a fact, nothing is going to matter if your child, if your millennial employee cannot focus and cannot pay attention. Just can't be done. So that's the first thing. Second thing is awareness. And by awareness, I mean awareness of the world outside, but also awareness of the world inside. Your thoughts, your feelings, your bodily sensations, your instincts, and also how you come across to other people. Are your kids aware of how they come across to the world? Self-awareness is one of the most important things for their success. So how do you cultivate that? You need to be very intentional. Ask for feedback. Get them to ask for feedback. And don't just tell them what they're doing wrong. If they've done something, instead of telling them, you did this and this, if I were you, I'd have done this and this, ask them, hey, I'm curious. What sense did you make of that? How do you think you did? What worked? What didn't work? What would you have done better? Get them to exercise the awareness muscle. Third thing, empathy and compassion. Now, this is the ability to really build trust, to connect with somebody on a deep level, heart-to-heart level. And this is something that machines cannot do. So really important to understand this. The fourth thing is complex communication. We live in a small world where it's impossible to avoid conflict. But yet, a lot of parents say to me, I don't quarrel in front of my kids. I preparing them for the real world. I'm not saying argue all the time in front of your kids, but you need to teach them the skills of negotiation, of conflict, and to make it normal. It's normal to have conflict. And how do you actually do that in a respectful, in an empathetic way with boundaries? The fifth thing is adaptability and resilience, because life's going to throw a lot of things at you in this volatile world, which we don't have the playbook for. But a lot of people think resilience is just bouncing back, bouncing back. It is not. If you're just bouncing back all the time and you haven't learned anything, what's the point? It's bouncing back with growth. It's bouncing back with learning. So the sixth point is entrepreneurial thinking, and that is the ability to connect the dots between this point and that point in a way which is not immediately obvious. And it's also the ability to smell out an opportunity and to act on it decisively. So this is your portfolio of super skills. We spent a lot of time actually teaching these skills, but yet, I'm going to say something. Learning skills is not enough. Learning skills is just the tip of the iceberg. It is so easy to get somebody in a room, sit their butt down, you're going to listen to Crystal talk to you about this and that. A lot of times it doesn't make a difference. Why? Why? Because here's the iceberg. Skills is just the tip of the iceberg. If you really want positive change, you need to impact their mindsets. If you don't have the right beliefs, 想法, mindsets, that will interrupt any installation of the skills that you want. So I'm going to talk about 4 mindsets that you need to enact for this future-ready world. The first one is mind shift, to go from old fear of failure, please don't fail, to actually moving to a growth mindset. And that is, instead of, if you tried something and it didn't work out, instead of thinking, well, I failed, can you think, well, I tried something and I expanded the boundaries of my knowledge. I learned something, I had a thought experiment. So for this mindset, my action for you is this. Develop a habit of sharing. Go to your team, whether it's your millennial team or whether it's your next generation family and relatives, and sit around the table with them and share with them. This was my biggest failure or lesson of the week. I tried this, it didn't work out the way I thought, and this is what I learned from it. So share with them what you changed and share with them your thought process. I work with a lot of who are die, wealthy second generation, and it never fails to amaze me that when you ask them about, their parents, they say things like, my dad never made a mistake. My mom never ever made a mistake. But that's the way it is. Kids, they think grown-ups are in a way like gods when they're young. And they develop these perceptions, and it's not okay. We need to normalize trying different things. And second mind shift, old way of thinking, get the plan right. Sit around business school style, do all kinds of models about like, this is the best way, let's go with this way. Spend 8 months doing modeling. The new mindset is nobody knows the right way, and you can only know if you do simultaneous thought experiments. Many different ideas simultaneously at the same time. Instead of spending so much time, with your kids saying like, oh, I think you should be a lawyer, oh, I think you should be an entrepreneur. Why doesn't your child try many different experiments or projects and just test out the hypotheses? So the action here is, instead of a to-do list, keep a thought experiment list. Exercise your ideas muscle. The famous Wharton psychologist Adam Grant did some research that showed your first 15 ideas are probably not creative at all. The next 15 after that are better, but it takes 200 ideas before you reach peak creativity. Why? Because your ideas muscle is something that you need to develop. So come up with more options. Don't fall down the trap, that Asian trap of being efficient. Sometimes creativity and innovation is not an efficient process. Number 3, mind shift, Instead of starting with logic when you're dealing with a tricky situation, now I suggest that you start with empathy. And here's the magic formula. If you're dealing with any sort of conflict, whether it's government to government, bank to bank, corporation to corporation, person to person, husband to wife, you really essentially need just 3 things that you need to convey to the other person to defuse the situation. I'm probably going to talk to Sir Barons about this, but it's very simple, and it's not so simple at the same time. But here are the 3 sentences. I see you. Number 2, I hear you. And number 3, what you have to say matters. It matters to me. And I am not saying that you have to agree with the other person. You don't have to agree with them necessarily. But if you convey these 3 things, it diffuses 80% of the conflict. Because, why? The neuroscience suggests that when we are triggered, when we are in conflict, we turn off our logical brain. It's actually our reptilian fight or flight instinct. The alarm bell of our brain starts ringing because it detects a threat. And that alarm bell, when it's ringing so loud, there's no way your logic can even participate until you turn off the alarm bell. The only way to defuse the alarm bell that's ringing and causing your amygdala hijack, that's a technical term for it in your brain, is by saying, I see you, I hear you, and what you have to say matters to me. We are on the same team. That deactivates and defuses the system so that the brain can kick in, and then we can go to problem solving. 4th mind shift is, instead of expert mind, we actually need to cultivate beginner's mind. I would like to tell the story of the ex-CEO of Procter & Gamble, A.G. Lafley. He was once asked, what keeps you up at night? And this is what he said. What keeps me up at night is that my experience, my 40 years of experience, will make me see the new problems in an old way. The new problems in an old way. And yet, all of us sitting here today, we are successful, we have experience, but can we see things with a beginner's mind? Here's the action. Now, what can you learn from the youngest people around you, from the experts at beginner's mind? Can you find a young mentor? Can you find a millennial? Can you find a Gen Z? And can you ask them for their opinion? I always like what A.J. Lafley said. He said, whenever I'm asked about an issue and I'm immediately certain, that's when my alarm bell starts ringing. And he says, then I know that's a danger that I'm acting from a place of bias, from an old perspective. And when he's very certain about anything, that's when he stops and he asks. 48 hours, he presses the pause button, and he goes up and he finds 3 people, very different in perspectives, diversity from himself. So make sure that you're including those diverse perspectives in your life. Sometimes, particularly in wealthy families, we start getting insular and we start, retreating and contracting into our own, into that safety, and then we miss out. We miss out on that wealth of perspectives around us. So here's the 3rd piece. Skills, mindset, and perhaps the most important piece is actually identity. Now for this, I'll need audience participation again. On your iPads, I want you to enter one word that symbolizes your hopes for the next generation. So for instance, you could enter words like kindness or connectedness or, courage or success, whatever it is. One word that represents your hopes for our youth, our next generation. And the bigger the words are, the more popular the response. And I see the words coming up now. So we've got happiness, that's the big one. Can you be happy without those mindsets, without those super skills? No, just why they're so important, right? Compassion, peace, empathy, hope, love, these are the things we want, and they are all hard skills. They are not hard skills. They are to do with your emotional intelligence. the peace, your values, the hope, the compassion that you want. And also, I also see around the side toughness, survival skills, and it's a balance. Indeed it is. So I want to show you something. If we can switch back, if you just take a moment and reflect on this word cloud for a moment and just kind of let that soak in. I'm going to now show you a different word cloud. This is a word cloud that happened when I asked a whole bunch of thousands of university students at the top-ranked university in Asia, what is the one thing that stands between you and your hopes? The hopes for all that stuff that you just entered. This was their response. Not smart enough, not good enough, not strong enough, not pretty enough, not creative enough, too lazy. These are what we call limiting beliefs. And they happen to everyone, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter what kind of resources you have. These limiting beliefs, they sabotage what you want from the inside out like a virus. Even before anybody puts your child in a box, most of the time, your child is already in a box that he or she has put himself in to crawl in, turn the lock and throw the key away. That's what I see a lot of the time. And because of that, it's really important to understand on the identity level, who do you want to be? Pick 3 values that that demonstrate the person you want to be in this world of the future. But also get really clear about that one big limiting belief that stands in the way of you achieving that. And what we recommend is really working on techniques to diffuse this limiting belief. And you can start the process by sharing, normalizing with your kids, hey, I used to struggle with this limiting belief, but you know what? Here's the secret. I am more committed to this, to the person I want to be, than I am committed to my limiting beliefs. That's the choice. You have to be more committed to the person you want to be in the future. So to be a better education is about layering these things, the future-ready skills and mindsets, overcoming the limiting beliefs, but also a great university, a great institution will actually layer on experiences and connection, because that we are all living in a world which is hyper-relational at the moment. I'm a strategic advisor to one of the most exciting universities in the world called the Minerva Project. It's the Western world's most selective university, 5 times harder to get into than Harvard or Yale. Okay? And Minerva Project actually has this model where students travel to 7 different countries over the 4 years that they are there. They start off in San Francisco, they go to Sao Paulo, they actually go to Taiwan, they go to Hyderabad, they go to Seoul, and what they get is a really different global education, cultural perspectives. And what I also love about Minerva is the emphasis on skills. Skills over domain knowledge, skills over hard technical competencies that may be obsolete the moment you leave the university. And interestingly, this formula works. The experience exposure, the focus on skills, critical wisdom. After only 8 months, Minerva first-year students, they scored in the 99th percentile. And their delta, which is the rate of change, was far superior to the other Ivy League universities. Why? Because of that new model paradigm shift education. So lastly, I want to wrap up with this. The future of our planet depends on our consciousness, and even more on the consciousness of the next generation. Now, if you really want your kids to be educated, you gotta be prepared to understand that your job is not to keep them safe. Your job is to make them strong. You can't protect them from the world, but you can believe in them, and you can give them the skills and the access to these sort of mindsets and these resources. And what I also want to say is that in the world of the future, for a better tomorrow, You need to make the right decision, not the popular decision. That takes strength, that takes authenticity. So my Chinese New Year wish for all of you is that you'll be strong, and for your families to be strong. That you go deep human, that you future ready your mindset, but most importantly, with all of that, I hope that you build a better tomorrow, not just on the outside, but also on the inside for you and your children. Thank you very much.